Okay, let's unpack this. You've probably seen them, right? Those viral online videos, often hilarious and sometimes, well, stomach churning, featuring people bravely, or perhaps, let's be honest, maybe foolishly, attempting to taste a certain infamous Swedish delicacy.
Oh yeah, those are hard to miss. The Surströmming videos.
Exactly. We all know Surströmming is that sour herring notorious for its scent and the extreme reactions it elicits. But today, we're diving beyond the viral gags, to genuinely understand what's really going on here. Our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. Beyond the gasps and gags, what is Surströmming really? Why does it trigger such extreme sort of visceral reactions in some, yet remain a deeply cherished traditional food for others?
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Totally. And the big question we're going to explore, is it truly the most challenging food on earth, or are there other contenders out there in the world of gourmet, and let's face it, gut-wrenching cuisine that push our boundaries even further? We're going to explore the biology, the profound cultural context, and the fascinating psychology of taste that Guillaume Gartner so compellingly details in their work.
What's truly intriguing here, and something R. Gartner really emphasizes, is precisely how something so, let's say, widely reviled by many can be a deeply cherished and anticipated tradition for others.
Yeah.
This isn't just about what hits our taste buds. It's a profound window into human adaptation, sensory processing, and the power of cultural conditioning.
That makes sense.
So this deep dive will explore not just the what of Surströmming and these other extreme delicacies, but critically the why behind our sensory perceptions, our cultural upbringing, and how these powerful forces shape our entire culinary experience. We're going to pull apart all the intricate details from the Guillaume Gartner source today, give you the full picture on this remarkable phenomenon.
Excellent. So let's start with the absolute basics then. For those who might have only seen it in those internet videos, or perhaps only know it as that stinky fish, what exactly is Surströmming truly?
Okay, so to define this unique delicacy, Surströmming is, at its core, a quintessential Swedish specialty. As Guillaume Gartner notes, it consists of fermented Baltic sea herring, specifically Clupea harengus members, which is a slightly smaller variety of herring found in the brackish waters of the Baltic.
Okay, Baltic sea herring. Got it.
It's sold in cans, typically, and its global notoriety, as you've pointed out, stems from the extremely strong, almost overwhelmingly foul smell it releases the moment the can is opened.
Right, the infamous opening ceremony.
Exactly. The very name Surströmming directly translates to sour herring or fermented herring, which in itself is a very clear and, well, pretty accurate clue about its nature.
Sour herring, yeah, that
Right.
feels like quite an understatement for what most people experience, I think. But it sounds like a very deliberate process, not just, accidental spoilage. Can you walk us through how this unique food is actually made?
Absolutely. It's a meticulous and time-honored process, far from accidental. R. Gartner details how the production begins with precision, highlighting that timing is absolutely key. The herring is caught in the spring, usually around April and May,
Okay, spring catch.
specifically when the Baltic Sea herring is at its peak quality, ensuring the best raw material for the fermentation. This precise timing is crucial because the herring's fat content and physiological state at this point are ideal for the desired fermentation profile.
So it's not just any herring, anytime.
No, definitely not. Once caught, the herring is gutted, its head removed, but critically, the roe and intestines are often left in place.
Really? Why is that?
Well, this isn't a mistake. These internal organs contain specific enzymes and bacteria that are vital for initiating and guiding the fermentation process, so they actually kickstart it.
Ah, interesting.
The herring is then placed in large wooden or plastic barrels where it undergoes an initial fermentation. Now, this is where our Gartner points out a crucial detail. It's fermented with a minimal amount of salt.
Minimal salt. You'd think fermentation needs salt, right?
Usually, yes, for preservation. But this low-salt environment is not an oversight. It's a deliberate and highly controlled condition. It creates the perfect selective pressure for specific haloanaerobium bacteria to thrive.
Halo what now?
Haloanaerobium. They're a type of bacteria that can tolerate some salt, but thrive in lower concentrations. And they're key to the specific lactic acid fermentation that gives Surströmming its character, rather than just, rotting or being salt cured.
Gotcha. Lactic acid like in yogurt or sauerkraut, but fishy.
Exactly. This barrel fermentation typically lasts for 1 to 2 months. During this time, the fish gradually softens and its unique flavor compounds begin to develop.
So it's not just a low salt cure, it's a carefully managed bacterial ecosystem inside those barrels. And then it goes into the can, but the journey isn't over, is it? I remember you mentioning something about that.
Precisely. After this initial barrel fermentation, the herring is packed into cans. But here's where our gardener highlights a truly fascinating aspect and why the airline classification becomes relevant. The fermentation process doesn't stop.
It keeps going inside the sealed can.
It continues actively inside these sealed cans. This ongoing bacterial activity, particularly the work of those haloanaerobium bacteria, continues to generate significant amounts of gases. Think carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide.
Hydrogen sulfide, the rotten egg smell contributor.
That's the one. Plus various organic acids. This leads to considerable pressure buildup within the container. The can literally bulges.
Wow.
And that internal pressure is precisely why the practical tip, often delivered with a cautionary chuckle, recommends opening a can of Surströmming underwater.
Right. I've seen people do that in videos that look kind of dramatic.
It isn't merely for dramatic effect. It's a very practical and necessary measure to prevent the highly pungent fermented liquid and gases from explosively splashing out. As our gardener vividly describes, such a mishap could turn an outdoor meal into an absolute olfactory disaster. Not just for you, but potentially for the whole area.
An olfactory disaster zone, I can imagine. It sounds like a true labor of love there, a precise process that continues even after it's been sealed away. Like a living product almost.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It's still actively changing.
But if you were brave enough, or perhaps just incredibly curious to try this, where would you even find it? I mean, it's not exactly on the shelf next to the tuna in most grocery stores, at least not where I live.
You're absolutely right. It's not an everyday item for most of the world, which only adds to its mystique. Its primary availability, as our gardener notes, is naturally in supermarkets throughout Sweden.
Makes sense. Home turf.
Yeah, you can walk into many grocery stores there, particularly in the northern regions, and find dedicated sections for it. It's often a seasonal product, too, with the premiere of the New Year's badge eagerly awaited in August.
A premiere. For fermented fish, that's commitment.
It's a real tradition. However, thanks to its rising global fame, or infamy, depending on your perspective, it's actually becoming accessible in a wider range of places internationally.
Really? Where?
We're seeing it pop up in specialized gourmet food stores that cater to unique global products, in shops dedicated to international provisions, and increasingly on online platforms.
So you can actually order it online?
You can. You might find it on sites like Etsy, or through dedicated gourmet food stores that offer international shipping. It makes it surprisingly accessible to the curious and the brave worldwide. So our gardener observes that those viral videos, while perhaps initially causing repulsion, have certainly expanded his market reach.
Power of the internet, huh? Even for stinky fish.
It's quite something. And it's also worth noting that in larger Swedish supermarkets, you'll typically find it in the refrigerated section.
Okay. Why's that?
It underscores its nature as a perishable food, despite the fermentation. It's a living, breathing, fermenting product that continues to develop its characteristics. And refrigeration helps slow that down a bit and maintain quality.
Okay, that brings us to the crucial question. The one that I know is on my mind, and likely yours too. Why on earth does Surströmming make so many people gag? It's not just a little pungent, it's notoriously offensive to most uninitiated noses. What exactly is going on scientifically that causes such an extreme, almost primal reaction as our gardener explores?
Right. This is where we really need to break down the chemical compounds responsible for this truly overwhelming sensory experience. Our gardener explains that the strong and for most incredibly unpleasant odor is a direct result of the complex array of volatile chemical compounds generated during that meticulous ongoing fermentation process we just discussed.
So it's not just one thing, it's a mix.
Exactly. It's not one single culprit, but an orchestra of olfactory signals hitting you all at once.
And orchestras stink. Lovely.
Let's look under the microscopic hood, as our gardener suggests, at the very molecules playing havoc with our senses. A major player is hydrogen sulfide, H-Eros.
Okay, the rotten egg one we mentioned.
That's it. This compound is famously responsible for that characteristic smell. It's one of the primary components in Surströmming's distinctive and for many quite alarming bouquet. You've probably encountered it before in other contexts like natural gas, or even when organic stuff decomposes. It sends a very clear signal to our brains. Danger. Stay away.
Primal warning sign number 1. What else is in the mix?
Next up, we have butyric acid. Now, if you want a vivid image, imagine the aroma of rancid butter, or even more viscerally, vomit.
Oh, lovely. Thanks for that image.
Sorry, but that's butyric acid, a short-chain fatty acid, and it's another significant contributor to Surströmming's profoundly pungent profile. Our Gartner highlights that in certain concentrations, it can be incredibly off-putting, serving as another potent alarm bell for our senses.
Warning sign number 2. Got it.
Then there's acetic acid, which you might know better from its sharp vinegary smell. It adds a pungent tang, another layer to the complexity.
Like strong vinegar?
Kind of, yeah. And propyl acid, which further adds to the overall volatile and complex mix of aromas. And our Gartner notes that these are just a few of the many compounds involved. There are others too.
Wow.
The collective odors, the combination of all these and other volatile elements working in concert, creates an aroma that many people instinctively compare to that of decaying garbage, intensely rotten putrid fish, or even sewage.
So it's not just one bad smell, it's a complex symphony of signals that our brain interprets as a profound warning, a signal of putrefaction.
Exactly, a primal signal saying, do not eat this.
So it's a chemical cocktail, truly, and a very potent one. But here's an interesting point I've heard, and I think our Gartner touches on this. For those brave souls who actually manage to get it past their nose and into their mouth, the taste is sometimes described differently from the smell. How does our brain process this intense battle between the overwhelming smell and the actual taste?
That's precisely the battle of the senses that our Gartner delves into. And it's fascinating. Surprisingly, for those who can somehow manage to get past the initial, almost physical assault of the smell.
A big if for most people, I imagine.
A very big if. But if they do, the actual taste of Surströmming is often described as intensely salty and strongly fishy, with a certain umami depth, rich, savory.
So not necessarily repulsive in terms of pure taste.
Potentially not, no. And crucially, it can even be acceptable or even prized by those who dare to try it in its proper context. The flavor profile isn't universally bad in and of itself. It's just very potent, complex, and intensely savory.
There's a big but coming, isn't there?
There is. However, and this is the critical point our Gartner emphasizes, the smell is so incredibly overpowering that it predisposes the person to aversion. Think of it as a preemptive strike on your senses.
So the smell wins before the taste even gets a chance.
Pretty much. The brain is utterly overloaded by the intense odor before the taste even registers fully. This isn't just a strong preference dislike, it's a primal instinctive reaction. This overwhelming smell is associated by the brain with putrefaction, a clear, unmistakable signal of danger and spoilage.
Right, that evolutionary alarm bell you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. That instinctive association triggers an immediate and very strong rejection response, which often manifests as the gag reflex. It's not just a learned dislike, it's a fundamental evolutionary survival mechanism at play, hardwired into us to avoid things that could be harmful or diseased. Our ancestors learned very quickly to avoid things that smelled like that.
That's fascinating. A deep-seated survival mechanism basically short-circuiting the taste experience. And it brings us to some interesting cultural context. I know our Gartner talks about the practicalities of actually eating Surströmming.
Indeed. Our Gartner notes that in Sweden, it's customary to consume Surströmming outdoors. This practice isn't just about tradition or, enjoying the fresh air.
Yeah, I bet it's not just for the ambiance.
Not at all. It's a deeply practical and learned way to mitigate the pervasive smell and prevent it from infiltrating homes or enclosed spaces. Often, people will set up special outdoor tables, sometimes even designated tents, creating a sort of Surströmming zone.
A containment zone.
Pretty much. And speaking of containment, the intensity of the pressure buildup in the cans, coupled with the extreme odor, has led some airlines, as our Gartner highlights, to classify Surströmming as a potentially explosive material.
Wait, explosive, like hazardous material?
Yeah, potentially yes. Banning it from flights isn't unheard of. This isn't a joke. It underscores the unique challenges and the sheer power of this particular food, even beyond just the act of consumption itself. It's a testament to how extreme these fermentative processes can be.
That's incredible. Classified as potentially explosive. It truly highlights the extreme in extreme cuisine. So, if it's such a sensory assault and our biology literally screams danger, how is it possible that some people, especially those who grew up with it in Sweden, not only tolerate it but genuinely enjoy it? This feels like a true mystery of human experience, one that goes beyond just what's in the can. Our Gartner must have some profound insights here.
This is indeed where our Gartner truly delves into the intricate interplay of our sensory processing, cultural conditioning, and yes, even our internal biology, though some aspects are more speculative than others, as we'll see. It's not a simple answer, but a complex tapestry of factors woven together.
Okay, I'm ready for the complexity.
Let's first re-examine the sensory factor and the psychology of rejection through our Gartner's lens. The initial repulsion isn't necessarily an intrinsic biological reaction to something inherently bad in Surströmming in a pathogenic sense, meaning it's not usually making you immediately ill if prepared correctly.
Right. It's not poison usually.
Correct. Instead, our Gartner argues it's fundamentally about how our brain processes the sensory information from that smell. The fetid odor, largely due to those volatile compounds like butyric acid and hydrogen sulfide we talked about.
The warning signals.
Exactly. They act as a universal danger signal for most mammals, including us humans. Our brains are hardwired to instinctively associate these odors with decomposition and the potential risk of disease. This isn't a conscious thought. It triggers an immediate aversion response, and in many instances, the gag reflex, that fundamental evolutionary survival mechanism. It's a very effective ancient alarm bell.
So evolution is basically saying, nope.
Pretty much. This leads to something Art Gartner describes as learned taste aversion, or perhaps more accurately, a predisposition to aversion. Even if the taste itself were inherently palatable, salty, and pungent. As described, the smell is so profoundly overwhelming that it creates a powerful psychological predisposition to aversion.
Okay, explain that predisposition a bit more.
It means if a person approaches a food already convinced, even subconsciously, that it's going to be repulsive purely because of its smell, the actual taste experience is far more likely to be unpleasant. This happens regardless of cultural context or any accompanying side dishes. Your brain, having received that overwhelming olfactory danger signal, has already kind of made up its mind based on the initial sensory input.
So it's incredibly hard to be objective about the taste.
Extremely difficult. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of disgust. Our Gartner even suggests this is why many who try it as a challenge for a video often fail so spectacularly, because their mental preparation is for disgust, not culinary appreciation. The expectation shapes the reality.
So it's almost like our brain has already vetoed it before it even touches our tongue, especially if we're primed for disgust by videos or stories. That makes perfect sense for someone trying it for the first time. But then, how do we explain the Swedes? What's the key difference for them? And how does our Gartner account for this cultural acceptance?
That's precisely where cultural exposure and adaptation become the absolutely key differentiator, as our Gartner explains in detail. For someone growing up in Sweden, Surströmming transcends being just a food item. It's an integral part of their tradition, a deeply ingrained cultural practice.
It's more than just fish in a can.
Way more. R. Gartner highlights that Swedes who consume it regularly have been immersed in an environment where the smell and taste are normalized from a young age. It's often consumed within a specific ritual known as the Surströmming skiva, literally a Surströmming feast or party.
A Surströmming party, that sounds intense.
It is, but it's typically a social, festive gathering, often held outdoors in late summer or early autumn when the new batch is ready.
Okay, so social context is key.
Absolutely. During the Surströmming skivor, the herring is traditionally served with a specific array of accompaniments, which our Gartner notes are crucial for tempering its intensity. These include thin, crispy bread, like tunnbröd.
Like a flatbread.
Yeah, exactly. Plus boiled potatoes, finely chopped raw red onion, sour cream or gredfill, and sometimes cheese or chives. These ingredients don't just add flavor, they help balance and mitigate Surströmming's intense saltiness and pungent notes. They create a whole package.
So you don't just eat it straight from the can?
Generally, no, not traditionally.
Yeah.
This repeated, positive exposure from childhood within a supportive social context effectively rewires the brain, according to our Gartner's analysis.
Rewires? How so?
They learn to associate the smell and taste not with danger, but with positive social experiences, tradition, community, maybe even nostalgia. This learned association reduces the brain's strong initial aversion response. It's a powerful example of how culture overrides innate instinct.
Culture taming biology.
In a sense, yes. This leads us to the critical distinction R. Gartner makes between context and expectations. The experience of a Swede eating Surströmming as a delicacy within a cherished cultural rite is vastly, profoundly different from a tourist trying it for a challenge to record for social media.
Right, the YouTube challenger versus the traditional feast.
Exactly. Our Gartner vividly describes how the challenger often approaches the experience with a strong pre-existing expectation that it will be something horrible, purely for the shock value or entertainment. These psychological expectations profoundly influence the perception of both taste and smell, making the experience far more likely to confirm those pre-existing negative biases.
It's almost guaranteed to be bad if you expect it to be bad.
Pretty much. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy again. The social context, the ritual, the positive associations they're simply missing for the uninitiated challenger. The setup is entirely different.
That's a truly powerful argument for the psychological and cultural impact. It really clarifies why the same food can elicit such wildly different reactions. But you mentioned another interesting angle earlier, the role of the gut microbiome. Is there a biological internal factor at play, perhaps related to the bacteria living within us, that might contribute to this difference in reaction? Our Gardner explores this theoretically, right?
Yes, this is indeed the more speculative yet fascinating part of the puzzle. And our Gardner acknowledges that while direct studies on Surströmming specifically are limited, it offers a compelling theoretical framework. Our gut microbiome, that complex community of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms living in our digestive system.
Trillions of them, right?
Exactly. It's known to adapt significantly to our regular diet. Our Gardner explains that individuals who frequently consume a variety of fermented foods, things like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, maybe kombucha, tend to have a gut microbiome that may be more diverse or simply better equipped to process the byproducts of fermentation.
So their guts are kind of trained.
You could put it that way. In this context, Surströmming can be seen as an extreme example of a fermented food, pushing those biological boundaries.
An extreme workout for the gut microbes.
Potentially. Our Gardner theorizes there's a possible relationship between some of the compounds found in Surströmming and how our gut processes them. For instance, short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs, like that butyric acid we discussed.
The rancid butter vomit one?
That's the one. It's present in Surströmming. But these SCFAs are also naturally produced by beneficial bacteria in our gut when they ferment dietary fiber.
Ah, okay. So our body makes similar stuff.
Our gut bacteria do, yes. It's hypothesized that the microbiome of a person not regularly exposed to such extreme fermented foods might have a more negative or unprepared response to these compounds when ingested in such high amounts from Surströmming. Perhaps their gut bacteria aren't accustomed to breaking down these particular compounds efficiently, or maybe their nervous system connection to the gut-brain axis is less adapted and sends stronger "something's wrong" signals.
So your gut could literally be rejecting it on a microbial level.
It's a theory. It could potentially lead to gastrointestinal discomfort or a heightened sense of internal revulsion. But, and this is important, as our Gardner himself emphasizes, specific scientific evidence directly linking Surströmming consumption to differences in the gut microbiome and subsequent aversion is scarce.
So it's an educated guess at this point.
It's largely based on inferences from broader research into diet and microbiome adaptation rather than direct targeted studies on Surströmming itself. It's an intriguing avenue, a cutting-edge hypothesis worth considering, but one that definitely requires further dedicated research to move beyond theory.
Got it. Fascinating, but needs more science.
Exactly. So, to conclude on the aversion, the rejection of Surströmming isn't primarily a bacterial revulsion in the sense of an internal pathogen rejecting it. Instead, as our Gardner meticulously details, it's a truly complex interplay of several factors.
Okay, let's recap those factors.
First, there's that universal evolutionary response to the smell of putrefaction, the alarm bell. Second, there's a profound lack of cultural exposure and socialization, which are absolutely essential to overcome that innate response.
Nature and nurture, essentially.
Right. And third, there are possible, though currently unconfirmed, influences from differences in the gut microbiome or even genetics in how individuals process certain food compounds. Ultimately, the distinction between those who enjoy it and those who cannot tolerate it largely lies in the former's cultural and psychological learning, their ability to override the powerful sensory alarm that Surströmming triggers in others. It's a triumph of culture over raw instinct.
That's an incredibly insightful breakdown. It's not just about what's in the can, but what's in our heads, our upbringing, and potentially what's in our guts. Surströmming certainly holds a prominent place in the pantheon of challenging foods. But this raises another question, and our Gardner explores this fascinatingly. Is it truly the most rejected food in the world? Or are there other contenders in the realm of gourmet cuisine that might push the boundaries even further, perhaps in different, equally stomach-churning ways?
It's a great question, and one that Gwion R. Gardner explicitly explores, asking if Surströmming truly stands alone at the peak of Mount Repugnant, so to speak.
Mount Repugnant, I like that.
Surströmming is certainly often crowned king on lists of the world's most disgusting or challenging foods. Its overwhelming smell remains its primary defining turnoff, a singular assault on the olfactory senses that is just incredibly difficult for most people to overcome.
The smell is its superpower or supervillain power.
Exactly. However, Our Gardner argues that while smell is the dominant factor for surströmming, other foods present different, equally challenging, and sometimes even more viscerally repulsive elements. These tap into other primal fears or cultural taboos.
Like what kind of things?
For instance, our Gardner points out that the presence of live larvae or insects in food often provokes a very strong visceral and cultural rejection in many parts of the world. That goes far beyond just an unpleasant odor for many people.
Oh yeah, bugs are a big hurdle for lots of cultures.
Definitely. Then there are foods with extremely unusual textures, things that are slimy, rubbery, maybe gelatinous, or contain parts of an animal not typically consumed by a given culture, like certain organs or extremities. These can be profoundly off-putting on a textural level.
Texture can be a huge deal breaker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, some delicacies demand expert preparation because they are inherently poisonous if not handled correctly. That adds an element of actual danger that elevates the stakes considerably.
Like fugu, the pufferfish.
Fugu is a classic example, though maybe not as widely repugnant as some others our Gardner discusses. These are all different dimensions of challenge beyond just smell, and our Gardner introduces us to a true rogues gallery of global delicacies that compete with surströmming.
Okay, so surströmming has tough competition. Let's dive into some of these notorious contenders that our Gardner brings to the table. Which one do you think is surströmming's strongest rival for the title of most challenging?
For many, and our Gardner tends to agree based on the reactions described, the strongest competitor is often considered to be Casu Marzu from Sardinia, Italy.
Casu Marzu. What is that?
It's a sheep cheese, specifically pecorino, that is intentionally infested with live fly larvae.
Wait, live larvae on purpose?
Yes, intentionally. The cheese flies, Delicacies, are encouraged to lay their eggs in cracks in the cheese. Upon hatching, the larva digests the cheese's fat, breaking it down. This results in an extremely soft, almost liquid texture and an intensely pungent fermented flavor. The name itself, Casu Marzu, translates literally to rotten cheese.
Rotten cheese with live maggots.
Oh.
Hey, that's...
But the main turnoff, and what makes it truly challenging for most, is that the larvae are alive and notoriously active. They can jump apparently up to 15 centimeters, or 6 inches when disturbed.
They jump. While you're trying to eat it.
Yes, especially if they're startled. Our Gardner describes the experience of eating it as a dynamic and slightly unsettling encounter. For many, the very idea and the visual of consuming live, wriggling, jumping maggots are far more repulsive than even the most potent foul smell.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a whole different level of nope.
It's a direct assault on our instinct to avoid parasites and decay, presenting a challenge on an entirely different level from surströmming's aroma alone. It's often eaten by locals, sometimes spread on bread, and it's even considered by some as a sign of virility and courage, though legally, its status is often complicated due to health regulations.
I can imagine. Okay, live jumping maggots. That certainly takes the ick factor to a whole new dimension. What else does our Gardner highlight as a major contender?
Next, we travel north to Iceland for Hákarl. This is a national dish that offers a very different, yet equally potent challenge. It's Greenland shark meat that has undergone a specific, lengthy fermentation and drying process lasting several months.
Greenland shark, isn't that the one that lives for hundreds of years?
That's the one. And what's crucial here, as our Gardner explains, is why it has to be fermented. Fresh Greenland shark meat is actually toxic.
Toxic? How?
It contains extremely high levels of urea and trimethylamine oxide TMAO. Basically, because sharks don't have a urinary system like ours to excrete waste, these compounds build up in their flesh. Eating it fresh can cause effects similar to extreme drunkenness or worse.
So fermentation is basically detoxification.
Exactly. The elaborate traditional process involves burying the shark in a shallow pit, covering it with sand and gravel, and placing heavy stones on top to press out the toxic fluids. This takes weeks or months. Then it's cut into strips and hung to dry for several more months in an open shed. This whole process is absolutely vital to break down the urea and TMAO, making the meat safe for human consumption.
That sounds like an intense process. What's the result like?
The finished dish, usually served in small cubes on toothpicks, has an intense, very distinct ammonia-like taste and smell.
Ammonia, like cleaning products.
That's the common comparison, yes. Our Gardner sources frequently compare its flavor and aroma to that of strong cheese, urine, or cleaning products. It's not just off-putting, it can be quite literally caustic in its aroma and taste, often leaving a burning sensation in the back of the throat.
Wow. Burning ammonia fish.
It's commonly eaten in small quantities, often chased with a shot of strong, local caraway-flavored schnapps called Brennivin, sometimes nicknamed Black Death. It's a deeply ingrained part of Icelandic cultural heritage, particularly during the midwinter festival of Forablog. Our gardener poses the question, does that kind of caustic ammonia aroma trigger a different type of aversion than the putrid, decaying smell of Surströmming? Or is it all under the same evolutionary alarm umbrella? It's a fascinating distinction in the type of bad smell.
Wow, comparing it to urine or cleaning products, that really drives home the intensity. I can almost feel the burning sensation just imagining it. Okay, what's another contender that hits a different kind of challenge entirely, not just smell?
Another truly challenging food, according to our gardener's research, particularly from a visual and textural standpoint, is balut. This is popular in the Philippines, Vietnam, and Cambodia.
Balut. I think I've heard of this one. It's an egg, right?
It is. Specifically, it's a fertilized duck or chicken egg containing an almost fully developed embryo, which is then boiled or steamed and eaten from the shell, usually served warm. The age of the embryo can vary, typically between 14 and 21 days, depending on local preference.
Okay. A developed embryo inside the egg.
Yes. The rejection factor here is primarily visual and textural, rather than just smell or taste, though it has a distinct savory flavor. Upon opening the egg, especially a more mature one can often distinguish the recognizable form of the embryo, sometimes with tiny feathers, developing bones, and even a small beak.
Oh, wow. That's confronting.
It is for many people. Our gardener describes the eating experience as multi-layered. First, you often sip the savory broth surrounding the embryo, then you consume the yolk, which is rich and creamy, and finally, the actual embryo itself. The embryo offers varied textures. Some parts are soft, some chewy, some slightly crunchy from the developing bones.
Multiple textures, including crunchy bones.
Exactly. For many outsiders, overcoming the clear image of the fetal animal and dealing with those varied textures is exceptionally difficult. It presents a significant psychological barrier. It really challenges deeply ingrained Western taboos about consuming developing life or recognizable animal parts in that state.
Yeah, the visual and the concept seem like the biggest hurdles there. How is it viewed where it's eaten?
It's often seen as a common, nutritious snack, a popular street food, readily available, and in some cultures it's believed to be an aphrodisiac or to increase virility. It's just a normal, albeit strong-flavored part of the cuisine.
That's a profound psychological hurdle for sure. I think many listeners are probably imagining the visual right now. Are there any other contenders that are maybe even more extreme in their preparation or the sheer concept involved?
Well, our gardener introduces us to one that, in my opinion, perhaps even surpasses Surströmming in the extremeness of its preparation. Kiviak from Greenland.
Kiviak, never heard of it. What's involved?
It's a traditional winter food of the Inuit in Greenland, and the preparation is remarkable. Hundreds of small seabirds, specifically little auks, they're small Arctic diving birds, often numerous, are stuffed whole, feathers, beaks, feet, everything.
Whole birds, feathers and all.
Yes, whole unplugged birds, often several hundred of them, are stuffed into a seal skin.
Into a seal skin?
Yes. The seal skin is then sewn shut meticulously and sealed with seal fat to make it airtight, essentially creating a natural fermentation pouch. This entire package, the seal stuffed with birds, is then buried under a pile of rocks, usually in a cool place, for several months, often for anywhere from 3 to 18 months, sometimes even longer, to ferment.
A seal carcass filled with hundreds of birds, fermenting underground for months. That is astounding. It sounds like something from another world.
It's an incredible example of utilizing available resources and preservation techniques in a very harsh environment. It is traditionally eaten in winter, often during celebrations like birthdays or weddings. The seal carcass is opened, and the fermented birds are removed.
And how are they eaten?
They are then eaten raw. Often, the traditional way is to bite off the bird's head and suck out the fermented juices and innards, or sometimes peel the skin back and eat the fermented muscle tissue underneath.
Raw, fermented bird juice.
Our gardener notes the taste is sometimes described, perhaps generously, as being like very mature, ripened cheese with a strong, gamey flavor, which sounds almost tame given the process. But the entire preparation, from stuffing hundreds of whole feathered birds into a seal carcass to the long subterranean fermentation and the final presentation of the raw fermented birds, makes it incredibly difficult to accept for most outsiders. It's a powerful testament to extreme food preservation and cultural adaptation in harsh Arctic environments, where every single resource is absolutely precious.
That is truly mind-bending. It puts Surströmming in a can seem almost mundane by comparison. What about a more common but still polarizing example that our gardener touches upon? Something maybe more people have actually encountered or at least smelled.
Ah, yes. Finally, we have durian, the so-called king of fruits, primarily found in Southeast Asia. Durian is famous, or perhaps infamous, for its exceptionally pungent odor.
Ah, durian. I've definitely heard about the smell.
It's hard not to. Our gardener details that the aroma is often described as a complex, challenging mixture notes of rotten onions, old gym socks, turpentine, raw sewage, maybe sulfur, and sometimes underlying hints of sweetness. It's so strong and pervasive that it's frequently banned in many hotels, airports, and public transportation systems across Southeast Asia. You'll often see explicit no durian signs prominently displayed.
Banned from public transit. That says a lot.
It really does. It's the one food you can often smell coming from a block away.
But people love it, right? Despite the smell.
Passionately. This is where our gardener makes a fascinating distinction and a parallel to Surströmming. Despite its notorious smell, the fruit's flesh, the actual taste and texture is highly prized by those who can overcome the aroma. It's often described as a unique blend of sweet, custardy, and creamy textures with complex flavors, sometimes with notes of almond, caramel, or vanilla fighting through the pungent notes.
So smell bad, taste good. Kind of.
For its fans, absolutely. This is an interesting case where the smell is a major barrier, just like Surströmming. But the taste, for those who adapt or perhaps are just wired differently, can be highly rewarding. It creates a passionate, almost addictive following. It highlights that intense smell doesn't always equate to an unpleasant taste. You can get past that initial olfactory shock.
Another case of needing to push past the initial sensory warning.
Exactly. So while Surströmming is undeniably infamous due to its overpowering smell, these other foods, Casu Marzu with its live larvae, Hákarl with its ammonia, Balut with its visual challenge, Kiviak with its extreme process, and durian with its pervasive stink, fiercely compete for the title of most repugnant or most challenging. They attack different senses or psychological barriers.
Yeah, it's not just one way to be challenging.
Not at all. The ultimate perception of what is gourmet versus repugnant remains, as our gardeners so eloquently demonstrates throughout their analysis, deeply rooted in cultural context, personal exposure, and highly individual experience. There's no single objective champion of disgust, but a whole pantheon of challenging delights that push the boundaries of what we, collectively or individually, consider edible.
So what does this all mean then? We've journeyed from the Baltic Sea to the Arctic, from pungent fermented herring to jumping maggots in cheese, developing embryos and eggs, birds fermented in seals, and even a fruit so stinky it gets banned from public transport. It's crystal clear that our relationship with food is far, far more complex than just a simple matter of taste preferences. It's as a whole universe of sensory input, biological responses, and deeply ingrained cultural practices, as Guion R. Gartner so thoroughly illustrates.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we've explored today really reinforces that our food preferences aren't simply a matter of inherent good or bad flavors. They are a fascinating interwoven blend of those evolutionary instincts, those primal alarm bells we discussed.
Right, that don't eat that signals.
Exactly. Plus the intricate chemistry of the compounds involved, the profound effects of cultural conditioning, those deeply personal psychological expectations we bring to the table, and even the subtle, perhaps theoretical influences of our own gut microbiome. It's all interconnected.
It's a whole system influencing whether we gag or cheer.
Precisely. The repulsion some feel is often an ancient evolutionary alarm, a survival mechanism kicking in, doing its job. While the delight others experience is a testament to the powerful role of tradition, repeated positive exposure, and learned adaptation. It proves that our brains, and perhaps our bodies too, are incredibly flexible and capable of overriding even strong primal responses given the right context.
That's amazing, really, the adaptability of humans.
It is. And this raises an important question, maybe something for you, the listener, to ponder. How much of our own culinary boundaries are truly innate, hardwired into us from birth, and how much are simply a product of our upbringing, our environment, and the specific cultural lens through which we view the world? What stands out to you from these extreme examples we discussed today? Is it the smell, the sight, the texture, or the sheer concept that challenges you the most? And what do you think that is?
That's a great question to reflect on. What makes me draw the line where I do?
My final thought for you is this. Next time you encounter a food that makes you instinctively recoil, whether it's just a really strong blue cheese or something truly adventurous you see on travels or TV, take a second. Consider the invisible forces of biology, culture, and psychology that are likely at play within you in that moment.
See it as more than just yuck.
Exactly. As our gardener's work suggests, perhaps even the most challenging delicacies, the ones that seem to defy all logic and good sense to outsiders, offer a profound window. A window into understanding ourselves, our instincts, our adaptability, and the wonderfully diverse human experience a little better. What other rejected foods out there might hold deep cultural significance and surprising personal stories that we don't yet understand, just waiting for their own deep dive?